I recently had a really quite difficult situation in my family, and it was really quite a struggle for me. But since it's not the first time I've been through struggle, today I will share with you the three things that I do to get me through the toughest times. And the last time I filmed something like this was before I really even found my flow in life and I was grinding. So the source of all my suffering was because I just didn't know myself well enough. But nowadays, there are just certain things that sometimes come up, and that's just life, right? So we've got to be able to know how to actually handle these things. And the first thing I do, and just really think about this one, because the first thing I do is I go outside and I reflect. Sometimes I will remove myself from the environment. If not, later on when I can, I will go on out and reflect. And I will say, first of all, thank you, God, for giving me these tests, or the universe, or whatever. Thank you for giving me these tests, and thank you for making me stronger. Because the thing is that losers say, why is this happening to me? There's nothing I can do, and this is hard, so I must quit. Winners say, thank you for testing me and for making me stronger. This is hard, so my story will be epic. Because it's just true. If you think through any story or movie or anything that you like, conflict is just a fundamental part of the story. And the bigger and the worse the conflict, the more interesting the story. As a random example, take Batman. Batman Begins. He had loads of conflict. And absolutely any story you can think of is the conflict that actually makes the story interesting. And equally, one day when you're 85, you're not going to wish you had it easier. You're going to wish you had more stories to tell. And so I've kind of changed my perspective now when I'm going through something difficult. Before I would really resist it, and I was thinking to myself, this is just horrible. I hate it, but I must push through because, you know, I've just got to keep going, I would tell myself. Step up after step. Just one more step, I would say. And then the next day I would say, just one more step. And I would keep saying one more step until finally I made it out of the dark tunnel I was in. But now, thankfully, I'm able to think differently. And essentially I'm thankful for even for my hardships because I know that they make me stronger. And then second of all, so this is the second thing, is I look at how much control I have over the situation. Because this is the beginning of just like step one is awareness, right? You're aware of the fact that, this is actually happening for you, not to you, right? And within the first step, being aware of your reactions is also important, but we'll get onto that. So the second step is you ask yourself, okay, well, what level of control do I have over this? You can have either direct control, indirect control, or no control. Direct control, you have direct control over yourself, for example, your thoughts, your actions, yourself, and what you do, right? Indirect control, that's usually over other people. And no control is over things like the weather and just external circumstances that you just can't control. And so if you recognize that, well, this is something I have full control over, direct control, because it's me, it's because I've been procrastinating, or it's because I've been lazy, or, this so and so habit led me to do this, then you can be honest with yourself and say, okay, well, I'm not going to feel guilty because that's counterproductive. I'm not guilty, I'm just aware. I'm now aware, and I'm not now going to observe simply like an archaeologist or, well, let's say a scientist. You're just going to observe this situation and think to yourself, okay, well, I didn't let this happen consciously, so it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility. And now it's time for me to take control and take responsibility, because the word responsible, response able, right? You're able, you have the ability to choose your response. So you get to work on yourself. When you have indirect control over other people, it comes down to increasing your influence over them. Now, the really, really difficult thing here is that often when you do have problems, because this video is about hardship and tough times, it's often going to involve conflict and potentially negative people, or, you may be having a tough time with certain person in your environment or wherever it may be. But the thing is that if you are going to be super horrible to them, no matter how horrible they are, you're going to have no influence over them. If you argue with them, if you prove them wrong, you will have zero influence over them. And so you can't change others, but you can change yourself, right? So you focus on your actions and you become proactive. And that doesn't mean you need to kiss that person on the feet, right? But over time, you show your integrity. You show that no matter what, you do the right thing and you do what is good. And no matter how they act to you, you're never going to be horrible. You're never going to be trying to get revenge, for example. Because I know there's a saying or a quote, I think it's by Confucius: before you go out to seek vengeance, dig 2 graves. Right? Before you go and try to revenge someone, dig 2 graves. And it's very true, because revenge never gets you anything, and proving other people wrong also never gets you anything, because as people, we have one fundamental need, and that's the need to feel a sense of importance. And from this, we stem 3 needs. So there's the need for relatability, competence, and autonomy. So autonomy or freedom. And if you criticize other people and you tell them they're wrong or they're stupid or they're in the wrong, you criticize them, you're hurting their sense of importance, and it means you have no influence over them. And when it comes to then, lastly, things you can't control, so no control, things like the weather or external circumstances, you can't influence them, of course, but you can change your reaction to them. You can change how you react to them. So that's why the third step here is being proactive, right? You choose your response. Now, on the topic of tough times, right? Life's challenges. There's very little that you can imagine that it was worse or tougher than the camps, Holocaust camps in Auschwitz, for example. And you may know of someone called Viktor Frankl. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. It was in there that he realized that despite the fact that these people have taken away all of his physical freedom, there's one kind of freedom they can never take away from him. And I'm pretty sure it's exactly or similar to the kind of experience Epictetus had, the Stoic. And Victor realized that they can't take away his freedom to choose his response. And he decided to, I've not read the book yet, I've got to read the book, but from a story that I've heard, he decided to start being proactive and essentially choosing his response. And he ended up actually inspiring other people in those camps and helping them find meaning in their suffering, just like Frankl did. And he even inspired some of the guards there. So the lesson here is that no matter how difficult life gets for you, you always have control over yourself. And that's what we always have to remember and come down to, right? First of all, we thank the universe for sending us these tests and making us stronger. Then we realize that, well, I always have control over myself. And then you get to work on yourself, because that's the only thing we ever really truly have control over. Our emotions, our reactions. And the thing is that most people are reactive, not proactive. So they just react to the things that happen to them. But trust me, your life will change completely. Your world will turn upside down when you start being proactive. I'm gonna leave it here for today, and I will potentially expand on this another time. But for now, I wish you all the best and keep pushing. Because even if you're going through hardship, no matter how bad it is, it's always worth it in the end if you keep trying. Always. And remember, if you focus on yourself and you keep improving, then when you never stop improving, success becomes inevitable. And the bigger your hardship now, the better your story will be in the end. Go crush it. I wish you all the best. Be mega. Ciao.